class and today's session. All right, we are going to be having business psychology and strategic management, BAM 405. Okay, so we're going to start right away because we are already behind. Time. Okay, so once again, you're welcome. Now, this topic is a very interesting one also, and I hope that in the context where we have, we'll be able to cover all the course all through. So, business psychology, and if you look at the topic, you will see that it is two words that have been put together. The first one being business, and the second one being psychology. Okay, just like you can have when you're dealing with certain subjects, you have a sub a subject of, or a an addition to it. So you can have English language, you can have French language. So the general word there is the language, but what you're looking at it is with respect to English, Arabic language, Hausa language, and so on and so forth. So we are going to be looking at business psychology with respect to business also, and that's what we are going to be looking at this morning. And to start with, we want to look at the concept of it as a whole, so that we can have a healthy understanding. We are going to be looking at several topics. We're going to be looking at human behavior. We'll look at motivation and attitude to work. We'll look at the psychology of leadership. We'll look at personal selection, training and assessment. We're going to look at communication, conflict resolution, research design, and all others as we proceed. So as I said earlier on, the topic is business psychology, and I welcome everyone. So business psychology is actually the study of the principles. I want to believe you can see my screen. I am sharing my screen with us. Okay, it's be very clear enough. Business psychology is the study of the principles of psychology as it is applied in business, as I said earlier on, and it deals particularly with the behavior of both customers, of consumers, of but I don't want you to view it just in the line of buying and selling. Okay, if you own a firm, if you own an organization, if you own an entity where people are, where you carry a form of transaction, it is still you can still term that as business. Okay, so psychological methods are employing to gain more customers and be able to lead people. I would say it can also be defined as a study of human nature. Okay, studying how human nature. Psychology basically studies human nature and how it responds to things. So another definition says it's a relatively a new branch of psychology, because psychology has many aspects. You can have medical psychology, you can have educational psychology, you can have clinical psychology, and the rest of them. So it's the study of business psychology. It's actually the study of the effectiveness of interpersonal relations in the work environment. Some business psychologists set up training workshops to improve management skills, and we know that psychology is learning how to deal with people, how to manage people. Okay, so psychology is the study of behavior and mental processes. Okay, and this behavior includes all forms of outward reactions that can be verbal, that can be facial, expressions and movement. So if we're going to put these two words together in order to have a healthy understanding of the topic, we're going to see that we're having business, which has to do with transaction, which has to do with entities, which has to do with organizations, and we're also dealing with psychology, which has to do with the study of behavior. So if you put these two words together, we can say that business psychology is the study, okay, of human behavior and mental processes and how it applies in business and other aspects of life. So that's what we're going to be looking at in broad term in this course. Okay, so let's look at why is this course important. Okay, why do we need this course? We said if you want a better understanding of people, if you want a better understanding of your own strength, your weaknesses, how you can improve people, and how people can be put to effective use within any system, business psychology is a course for you. Okay, in law, in relationships, in the work environment, in education, in career, in work, all these areas require humans. Okay, so understanding human behavior gives us a healthy grasp of how we can manage people better. Now, we said when people behave in ways that are self-defeating or over controlling or self-centered or disorganized or hostile, or all these different character traits can be understood more when you study business psychology. Okay, and we also said when you are dealing with people, it could be a colleague, it could be a boss, it could be a subordinate, it could be anyone, it could be your fellow student in the work environment. We go out, we interact with people every day. Understanding business psychology will give us a better grasp of how to relate and how to interact with people. Okay, that's very important to know the reason why we need this course. So we said psychology has made great strides in the development of principles and methods and the discovery of facts which find useful applications in various aspects of everyday life. Okay, so the objectives of psychology, as I've already said, are to study human behavior, which I'm not going to go back into. We have limited time, and so I want us to go straight into the course. So we're getting the materials later, and so you can do your own research and read up on all that we have already put together. Okay, so in summary, business psychology is a very practical and effective instrument in managing people, in buying, in selling, in leading, in following, because it teaches us how to relate to people. And attitude can, as we said, can either be used well or used wrongly in the work environment. So understanding business psychology is a key resource that we all need. Okay, now from our course outline, one of the first things we are to deal with is what is called human behavior. Human behavior. Human behavior. Now, what is the difference between behavior and an attitude? Actually, behavior is an outward form of an attitude. Okay, so let us look at this definition. A behavior can be defined as an action or a reaction of a person in response to something that is external. So if somebody says something to me and I get angry, or you get angry and you slap the person because he said to you, you have exhibited a behavior. You have acted in a way. So that behavior, what you put up is called, that action you put up is called a behavior. Okay, so and it's not just looking at how people act, but we need to understand the reason why they acted that way. So approving or disapproving, people or human beings is going to be based on your understanding of the reasons why they took their actions and the reasons why they took that. Now, you cannot understand business psychology if you do not understand human behavior, because human behavior is going to be helping us to understand why people take actions and how to, learn to respond to those actions very appropriately. Now, over the years, based on the way people act and behave in responses to stimuli, in when they have to talk, in their reactions and responses, we're going to be discussing the various forms of behavior that has evolved. Okay, the various forms of behavior that has evolved over the years. Now, the first form of behavior, I believe everyone is following me very keenly and you can hear me. Okay, now the first form of behavior is what we call molecular and moral behavior. Molecular and moral behavior. Now, molecular behavior is an unexpected behavior which occurs when people act without thinking. So, for instance, you cannot count how many times you have blinked your eyes since we started this course today. Now, all as you blink your eyes is not something that you decided. You don't sit down and say, okay, I want to blink my eyes 5,000 times a day. No, you don't do that. So it's an unexpected behavior. If somebody tries to, throw something in your eye without, more like a reflex, without thoughts to it, you blink your eyes or you close your eyes. All right. Now, that's what we call molecular behavior. Then moral behavior, unlike molecular behavior, which is not thought out, it's a type of behavior that occurs when you are thought through the process. For example, when you see a harmful thing now, if you see maybe a scorpion close to you, you will likely jump, you will run away, you take an action. Now that is because you saw something that is dangerous and you took an action to to prevent harm. That is moral behavior. So molecular is unthought. You do not think it, you do not plan it, but whereby a moral behavior is thought out. The next is overt and covert behavior. Overt simply means it's a physical type of behavior that occur when outside human beings or outside our environment, like eating food, riding a bicycle, playing football. All these are examples of what is called overt behavior. It is seen by everybody, it's outward. But covert behavior is something that is not visible. Like if I'm having a thought now, as you're listening to this lecture, you're thinking, am I understanding it? Am I getting it? That's a covert behavior because it is internal. Nobody can see. I mean, yes, nobody can see that thought process. So don't forget molecular and moral and molecular, and we have overt and covert behavior. Then we also have voluntary and involuntary behavior. Okay, now voluntary behavior is a type of behavior that depends on what you need. You want something, and so you act in a way. Like you're walking, you're speaking, you're taking an action, because it depends on what you need. You need an education, you need a degree in psychology, and so you apply for it. You want to study chemical engineering, and so you apply for it. So that behavior is based on a need that you want, unlike involuntary behavior that occurs naturally without necessarily, not because of what you want. So for the want of time, I'm going to quickly move, after looking at behavior, to look at also the personality types. We cannot examine behavior of people or the types of behavior without examining the different personality types. Okay, so a study has reviewed 4 major personality types. Okay, and at one point or the other, we have a mix of these personalities. Don't forget, we are discussing business psychology, and if you do not understand human behavior, personalities of people, you will not effectively be able to apply the knowledge of to business psychology. So the first is those that are called optimists. Okay, and the research says that 20% of people living in the world are believed to have this kind of personality type. They believe in a better tomorrow, and so they will always put their best to have something better. The pessimists are those that do not necessarily look at tomorrow as being very hopeful. So if something is not working, they just go out of it. They just say, well, this is not going to work. They are pessimists. They do not believe. They have a lot of doubt for everything around them. Then we have people, the third category of personality are people that are called trusting. They easily trust. Okay, they believe. When you talk to them, you can convince them. They'll say, okay, no problem. They easily take into account the brighter side, that okay, no problem, okay, I believe what you're saying. Then we have also those that are called envious, those that do things not out of genuine interest or motive, but out of the fact that they see other people doing it and they also want to do. So what is the bottom line of understanding human behavior? We said we are discussing this type of behaviors according to the study of psychology, and we know that there are different types of behavior. So in the end, we can say that understanding human behavior can help us to handle people very, very differently, and everybody cannot be handled in the same way. So having understood the different types of human behaviors that we have, okay, and the personality types, which we said we have overt and covert, molecular and the other one, and all these behavioral types that we have looked at. It's also we have looked at the 4 personality types: optimist, the pessimist, the trusting, and the last one. I haven't looked at the behavioral types and looked at the personality types. We want to apply these things to how it plays out in the work environment. How do human behavior, how does it apply to business psychology? And one of the key things to examine in understanding human behavior and how it applies to business psychology within the work environment and business space is to understand motivation. Okay, and we said motivation is, in layman terms, when somebody says motivated, say he's encouraged, he has an impetus, or what we call an internal energy, a drive to do something. So motivation is the desire to achieve certain thing or a goal. Okay, and when you refer to somebody as being motivated, you mean the person is trying to accomplish a task. Okay, you want to be able to do something, you want to be able to accomplish something, and for that reason, okay, you can have that drive to do it. So motivation is a drive. Motivation is an internal energy. Motivation is a push. Motivation is that desire to achieve a goal. And over the years, certain business and psychologists have attempted to study motivation and see how they apply, to life and how to manage people. Because within business spaces, within organizations, you're leading people, you're working with people, and you're managing people. And so these scholars have studied motivation and have been able to bring out different theories and how they can be applied in the aspect of business psychology. So now the first and one of the most popular motivation theories is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of need. His full name is Abraham Maslow, and he developed the theory of human motivation in 1943. Okay, and the major point in his theory and study is that most basic needs must be met before people become motivated to achieve higher level needs. Now, if you remember the economics also that talked about human needs and wants. Okay, he said human needs are insatiable. In other words, they do not end. And so what we do is that we create a scale of preference. If you have 5 things to do, you will write everything out according to their importance and start meeting those needs one at a time. So that is not necessary. That's not far-fetched from what Abraham Maslow also postulated when it comes to human behavior. Okay, so he divided human needs and human wants into 5 categories. He divided it into 5 categories. Now, in that division, the first one is what we call the physiological needs. We have physiological needs, excuse me. We have safety and security needs. We have the feeling of belongingness, which is the 3rd point. We also have esteem, and lastly, we have self-actualization. These are the 5 needs, the 5 human needs that were highlighted in the theory of Abraham Maslow. Now, if you can see this, I don't know if it's very clear to you, but let me expand it a bit so that we can see it. Now, if you look at this triangle, from the bottom, at this point where my mouse is pointing, at this bottom is how those needs, those 5 needs that we are looked at, is arranged. Now, at the bottom here, we have the physiological needs. And what are physiological needs? They are water. They are the basic needs of life: water, food, shelter, sleep. Then the second one is safety and security, where my mouse is pointed to. Okay, now safety and security need, like salary, you need employment, you need job security, you need good health, you need all of that. Finance is safety and security. Okay, if you have a place where there is many people will not want to go to certain parts of the north today because of what? Safety and security. So Abraham Maslow says the first of human needs down here is physiological needs, followed by safety and security. Our time is ticking, we need to be faster. Then we have the need of belongingness and love, which is family, association, relationships. Then the 4th one is self-esteem, which is status, okay, promotion. You want to get a better grade in school. You want to get, better scores and better test results. Then last one is self-actualization. So what Abraham Maslow says is that human needs proceeds along this path, from physiological down here up to self-actualization. That's what Abraham Maslow. So he says that this theory states that once you satisfy a lower level need, So if you're able to satisfy your physiological need, you would and you move on to safety and security, the lower level need will no longer be a higher motivation. If you're not hungry, for instance, and I gave you food, and I say, come, let me give you food, it will not be so much of a motivation because you already have the food. So once you have satisfied a lower level need, it will no longer be a powerful motivator. If, for instance, you are loved, you have that feeling of belongingness, safe, and you have already met the need of safety and security, which is a lower level need, it will no longer be a powerful motivator. The point under Abraham Maslow's theory is to note that whenever you already have something, that thing will no longer be a powerful motivator. Whenever you already have something, that thing will no longer act as a powerful motivator. So that is the first point to note on as we discuss Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So as a business psychologist now, how do you apply that? You know that when dealing with people always want to be motivated and encouraged. But if you are offering them something that they already feel they have or they do not need because they have it, it's no longer going to serve as a what? As a powerful motivator. So once a need is met, it will no longer, take for instance, okay, for want of time, let's move on. We're already it's already 8:32. The second theory is the two-factor theory that was postulated by Frederick Hensberg. Okay, now Frederick Hensberg approached the question of motivation in a different way. Okay, and by asking individuals what satisfies them on their job and what dissatisfies them on their work. Don't forget, we're looking at business psychology. Now, he labeled factors causing dissatisfaction at work as hygiene factors. So dissatisfaction means when you're not pleased, when you're not happy with something. And so he said, he mentioned hygiene factors as dissatisfaction factors. Okay. So, and the other one is, okay, let me not go ahead of me. Let's look at the first one. He labeled those causing satisfaction of workers as hygiene factors because these factors were part of the context in which the job was performed. Okay. And the second one are called motivators. Frederick Hensberg, the theory states that there are two broad categories of people in the workplace that he categorized as hygiene factors and motivators. In other words, when maybe an employee or a worker in a work environment is not satisfied that with certain things, it is placed under hygiene factors. Okay, now let's look at what are hygiene factors. They include policies, they include working conditions, salary, safety, security. So to illustrate, imagine that you are working in maybe in an environment where maybe it's not very pleasant. So maybe your office is too hot, okay, and you know the environment is not so nice. And you're not enjoying that work environment. Now, if these problems, which of course are hygienic because they are very important, now if this problem is solved and probably your office is now having an air condition or an AC, or even your school, your class, you're learning probably in an environment that is not very conducive, and it is now made conducive, what will likely happen is that you'll be motivated. You definitely be motivated because that place has been changed to meet the need of what? Hygiene. If your salary is improved, okay, it can meet your hygiene. So those factors that cause dissatisfaction at work is what is called the hygiene factors. Okay. Then the second one are the motivators, which are factors that are intrinsic. When something is intrinsic, it means it comes from within. So we have intrinsic values and extrinsic values. Intrinsic values are those values that come from within, and extrinsic values are those values that come from what? Outside. If I give you a car right now, or maybe as a student, you know, you are giving pocket money more, your parents increase your amount of allowance, you'll be very happy. Okay, so that is an extrinsic need factor because it's physical, but an intrinsic motivator is something that comes from within. So you do well in your school and you came out with a first class, and we honor you, we call you out before the school and put you on the Hall of Fame, and everybody knows that Shuaibu Musa or Shade Adeni became the best student in business psychology. That is, so by doing that, that achievement, that recognition falls under what? Motivator. So based on that, you to understand human behavior and how people think and see things and do things, you need to understand hygiene factors and also what? Motivators. Don't forget, hygiene factors are those things that cause dissatisfaction, and motivators are those internal things that when they are done, they work. You become happier. Okay, you become happier at your work. So that's what. So you can see it: hygiene factors, salary, security, working conditions, motivators, achievement, recognition, and the rest of them. Very quickly, the third one, as we begin to prepare for roundup, the third one is what we call Mcgregor's theory of X and Y. Mcgregor's theory of X and Y. Okay, we're looking at the different theories of motivation. Now, Douglas Mcgregor, he brought about two different views of motivation. The first is called as theory X, and the second one he labeled as what? Theory Y. Now, theory X is the belief that workers within a work environment are lazy, they are self-centered, they lack ambition and drive. So that is and all those that have these characteristics are called are put under the category of theory X. Then for theory Y's, these are people that are viewed as workers that are eager to accept responsibilities. They want to put in their best. They want to do well. Okay, so an appropriate management lifestyle is to focus on creating a productive work environment that can, suit them. So how do we apply Mcgregor's theory of X and Y within business psychology? So in every work environment, you have an understanding of your workforce. You know those that are doing well, those that are putting in their best, which of course Mcgregor says should be categorized as theory Y and theory X. Okay, there are certain things I'm not going to explain because they are going to be part of our assignment. Then the last theory we're going to look at before we wrap up the class is the expectancy theory. The expectancy theory. Now, this theory proposes that people will choose how to behave depending on the outcome that they see. So if you see that at the end of the day you are discussing with a friend calls you into to do something, and you see that you stand the chance to have a benefit of what your friend in school is calling you to do. Because of that benefit that you stand to get, you choose to accept to do it with him. So it is called expectancy theorist, from the word expectation. So you look forward to the fact that you are going to get something, you are going to gain something. So in other words, you decide we decide to do things based on what? Outcome. And this is also practicable in the work environment. If you know that I am going to do an overtime in the work environment of 2 hours because I'm going to get an extra income, or I'm going to get a commendation letter, or I'm going to get an appreciation from my boss, or and all of those kind of things, you will likely want to do it because of what? You know that there's a benefit at the end. So expectancy theory suggests that the process by which we decide our behaviors is influenced by how likely we perceive those rewards to be. Now, for instance, workers are likely to work harder if they are promised certain benefits at the end of the day. So expectancy theory, for these reasons, has three elements that come together to form it. The first one is what is called the expectancy, or the what? Expectation, of what one is looking for. So the belief that your effort is going to yield a desired goal. It's called expectancy. Instrumentality, the belief that you will receive a reward if you meet your performance. And thirdly, the value that you placed on that reward. So expectancy theory has three elements in that. Number one, the result from the desired goal. Number two, what you're going to get from the reward. And number three, how you place value on that reward. Okay, so based on all of this, people now act, and it's called the expectancy theory. So as we wrap up today's class, our time is already up. Do not forget all that we have learned today. We started dealing with the course business subject, and we looked at human behavior, the types of human behavior, and human perceptions and how they see things. Then from there, we learned, of course, after looking at the definitions of business psychology and their importance, and we now also looked at motivation and how it affects attitude at work. Okay, so I'm going to drop my email right now, and what your assignment task I'm going to do. The assignment you're going to do, you submit to this email before the next class. Okay, this is the email: gptsncregional@yahoo.com. gptsncregional@yahoo.com. Okay, and so the question is, everyone can hear me. This is your question. Explain how the theories of motivation can be applied in business psychology. Explain how the theories of motivation can be applied in business psychology. Okay, so that's the assignment. Explain the 10 theories of motivation can be applied in, or can be applied to and it must not be less than 4 pages. It must not be less than 4 pages. Please submit, to the email I've already given us earlier on, gptsncregional@yahoo.com. So thank you for today's class. I am Mr. Hilary Issa, and I wish you, a happy day ahead, and enjoy the remaining part of your lectures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hilary.
Thank you, sir. All right, sir.